9th, 2006. A witness watches a man in Taylorsville, Utah hold a bottle of Coke and a bag of Cheetos as he talks to 29-year-old Sonia Medja outside of her apartment. Suddenly, the man smacks Sonia hard on the head and forces both of them into the apartment. When Sonia's husband comes home, he finds the man's food outside the door. Inside the apartment, he finds Sonia stripped nude and strangled to death on the bed, and her body covered in Cheeto dust. Let's fast forward to February 9th, the same day, but a year later and only a mile away from the previous crime. An unknown man breaks into the apartment of Damiana Castillo and smothers her with a pillow. The investigators compared the two crimes and matched the DNA to the same man. Unfortunately, the judge has sealed the case, so the verdict is unknown. But what we do know is that police found the man who we call...
I'm really freaking out and I need to know if I'm overreacting. I think somebody did something to my butt while I was grocery shopping.
So this woman named Jessica went grocery shopping at Kroger's in Farmington, Michigan, and the entire time she was in the store, she noticed this young man constantly around her. Whenever she went to a new aisle, he was always there. At first, she didn't think much of it and thought maybe he was just shopping around, but the entire time he was holding one item in one hand and his phone in his other hand. At this point, her gut is telling her that something is off, and let me tell you, whenever you do have that gut feeling, you're almost always right. So she's finally ready to check out, and there's a woman in front of her. So as she's waiting, all of a sudden, she feels this wet thing on her bottom back. So she feels it with her hand and she's looking around at the ceiling, on the floor, to see if there was some sort of leak in the ceiling, but there was no leak. But she does notice that same man around her, and this time he's making eye contact with her and he seems to be recording her as well. So she leaves the store, she's freaking out, she makes this video on TikTok, it goes viral, and everyone's like, if that's what we're all thinking that this is, then that's considered assault. Jessica then contacts the store manager at Kroger's, and then corporate got involved and they looked at the store surveillance, and he was following her around the entire time she was there. And he did in fact do what we're all thinking. So then she files a police report and hands in her shorts with this substance on it, and police are still looking into it. So this is just a friendly reminder that a woman can't even feel safe grocery shopping. Let that sink in. It's so sad to say, but we honestly need to be vigilant at all times, even at a grocery store, apparently.
Of all the things not to do when you're on the run for murder, I'd say going on national TV is top of the list. ITVX's true crime drama, The Pembrokeshire Murders, shows the true story of 4 of Wales' most baffling murders and the crazy way that police finally cracked the case. I used to go on holiday to Pembrokeshire as a child every year, and the murders were unsolved back then, and it used to freak me out so much. My next recommendation is a show that covers the case of Julie Hogg, who disappeared in the 80s. Something horrific is found at the family home that changes everything. Her mum then goes through absolute hell to fight for justice in I Fought the Law. Last but definitely not least, if you haven't heard of this case, get ready for a roller coaster. A quiet farmhouse, 5 family members found dead. White House Farm proves one thing: at a crime scene, question everything. Watch all these and more on ITVX for free.
Disturbing facts that may ruin your day. Brain activity may continue for more than 10 minutes after you've died. Research suggests that even when you're unconscious, you can still feel touches from your loved ones and hear yourself pronounced dead. There are over 200 bodies on Mount Everest, and climbers commonly use them as trail markers. If the sun were to explode, we wouldn't know for about 8 minutes and 20 seconds. Real human skeletons were used in the 1982 film Poltergeist. Cast and crew were not aware of this until they had actually finished filming. Climate change is making wolf spiders around the world bigger. 2 Scottish surgeons originally invented the chainsaw in order to assist with childbirth.
3 facts that could save your life. Part 6. If you ever find yourself stranded on a beach somewhere, try and stay as dry and warm as possible, gathering supplies before it gets dark to, of course, make a fire. People don't realize that as soon as the sun goes down, it gets extremely cold on those waterfronts, and you can more or less die of hypothermia actually pretty quickly. If you ever find yourself hiking in needing of water, don't ever eat the snow. Eating the extremely cold snow while being extremely cold can actually give your body internal hypothermia, unaliving you actually pretty fast. If you're ever walking to your car and it's extremely dark outside, make sure you have your keys in your hand. If an intruder or someone comes near you to bother you, you can sound the alarm of your car, more or less scaring them off or getting at least somebody else's attention. Like and follow for more.
This woman here says she slept with at least 20 ghosts. Her name is Amethyst Realm, and she once had just a normal human husband, but she says she cheated on him with a ghost, and then went on to say that she's now engaged to an apparition who proposed to her. Now, I know love is love, but this is kind of scary.
These are 8 horrifying facts that will probably keep you up at night. 41% of Americans go into medical debt every year. No other developed country even has that concept. Most of the oxygen comes from the oceans, but people are busy talking about protecting trees and not the ocean. Dracula is based on a real person. Paris is romantic, right? What's more romantic than millions of human remains? The catacombs under Paris hold remains of roughly 60 million plague victims. Cockroaches can live without their heads for weeks. You can't die from old age, only from diseases brought on by age. Cannibals find the palm of the hand tastiest. Joke's on them. They don't know where my hand was this morning. Don't think you can outrun a crocodile. Crocodiles can gallop. Yeah, there's a lot more, like for part 13.
Did you know that in the next few years, people may be able to regrow their own teeth? Researchers in Japan might have figured out a drug that will allow people to regrow their own teeth, which is insane. They said that they would be starting their trials this September for 11 months, which will involve 30 males aged 30 to 64, each missing at least one tooth. And if all goes well, the next stage will focus on patients aged 2 to 7 who are missing at least 4 teeth. Now, before testing this drug on people, they have successfully tested on ferrets and mice and said that they've demonstrated positive results with no serious side effects. And they're very confident that this will work on humans. The drug was developed to help a wide range of people, including those with congenital tooth deficiencies and people who have lost their teeth to cavities, injuries, or other environmental factors. And while this is great news for people who are missing teeth, it's been said that this new drug could potentially disrupt the dental industry. Now that people could potentially regrow their own teeth, it reduces the need for traditional dental procedures like implants, dentures, and crowns. If these clinical trials are successful,
about you, and it's no one else like you is what they're getting. Positive vibes
she
only.
Ruined the lives of 40,000
Shout out to King Saul's boss in the build about you. And
Annie Ducan was a Massachusetts forensic chemist whose misconduct led to one of the biggest crime lab scandals in US history. From 2003 to 2012, she falsified drug test results, dry labbed samples, and tampered with evidence, leading to thousands of wrongful convictions. She also lied about having a master's degree in chemistry. Authorities arrested her in September 2012 at her home in Franklin, Massachusetts. She faced 27 charges, including obstruction of justice and evidence tampering. In 2013, she pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 3 to 5 years in prison, serving 3 before her 2016 release. Her actions led to over 21,000 drug convictions being overturned, but the total number of affected cases has since grown to over 40,000, according to state officials. Investigators found she wasn't motivated by money, but by a desire for recognition, falsifying results to appear more productive. Her scandal cost the state millions in lawsuits, forced forensic reforms, and shattered public trust in the justice system, making her a cautionary example of unchecked power in forensic investigations.
Yo. All hands.
Quick message from our youngest daughter. Aubrey wanted to say, you may have received A's in high school and college, but you're going to be getting big D's in prison.
Thank you.
This is the photo of the girl who was turned into a human bodysuit. Yeah, they skinned her. There are real photos of the crime on the internet. I can't show them to you, obviously, but you can Google them. It was a 23-year-old college student who was struggling with depression. She ended up being sent to a psychiatric clinic on November 12th, 1998, but ended up going missing instead. Her mother reported her missing to the authorities, and they told her to wait. And if they didn't wait, she might still be with us. And then in January 1999, a couple months later, a tugboat crew found human skin and her leg floating in the water. And initially, people thought this was an accident, but like, how
About
does that
you, and
become
there's no
an
one
accident?
else
When you see
like
the
you is what
photos, that was no accident. But then they kind of realized, oh, someone deliberately removed all of her skin and fashioned it into a bodysuit. Very unfortunately, the case went cold for a really long time. And then in 2014 to 2017, there was a lead. Notice the psychological profile of this guy named Robert J. He had really disturbing tendencies. He worked at a zoology institute where he killed the rabbits with no explanation, and he fit the profile of the perpetrator. But there's no real evidence that says that he did this crime, so they ended up letting him go. Unfortunately, justice has not been served for her yet. her leg floating in the water. And initially, people thought this was an accident, but like, how does that become an accident? Like, when you see the photos, that was no accident. But then they kind of realized, oh, someone deliberately removed all of her skin and fashioned it into a bodysuit. Very unfortunately, the case went cold for a really long time. And then in 2014 to 2017, there was a lead. Notice the psychological profile of this guy named Robert J. He had really disturbing tendencies. He worked at a zoology institute where he killed the rabbits with no explanation, and he fit the profile of the perpetrator, but there's no real evidence that says that he did this crime, so they ended up letting him go. Unfortunately, justice has not been served for her yet. Her killer has not been found. And if you want to see the crime scene photos, just Google Katarzyna crime, because they're too disturbing to show here. Over here for more content.
When they entered the apartment, what they found was disturbing. The first thing that they saw was a skinny 4-year-old Benji with 2 big black eyes. But not just that, Benji had bruises all over his body. He also had an injury in his ear, and because of that, he had a gauze just like sticking out of his ear. The officer said that he was very skinny and did not look like a normal 4-year-old. When they asked why did Benji have all these injuries, Miranda and Brandon said that he had behavioral issues and that he would do this to himself. They said that he had a habit of constantly poking his eyes and ears, and that's why it caused those injuries. Then officers decided to bring Benji alone into the bathroom, and they asked him again, what happened to you? Benji said the same thing his parents said and told the officers that he did it to himself and that he poked at his eyes and ears. But when you watch the video, it doesn't sound genuine, and it kind of sounds like Benji was rehearsed and told to say that. They had locks on their fridge, on their kitchen cabinets, and everywhere where there was food. They also noticed a lot of cameras set up in the apartment, especially in the kitchen. From their point of view, it just looked a little bit odd. Why are there so many locks and why is there cameras everywhere? Now, they retrieved all these cameras and began looking at all the footage, and I was not prepared to see what I saw. I think this was one of the saddest videos I've seen in a while. Watching how this boy would sneak out of his room in the middle of the night to look for food, it literally broke my heart. It was said that before Miranda moved into the home, Benji was able to just go in and out of the cabinets and fridge and get whatever he wanted. But then these locks were added and it became more difficult for Benji to get food.
Did you know that in the Universal Studios in Beijing, China, the Jurassic World Adventure ride has the Indominus Rex and it chases you? The video at the end is terrifying. I could never go on this ride in a million years. You see how it has this track here and it actually chases you for like a full 30 seconds. This is what it looks like without skin. It's giving Five Nights at Isla Nublar. Also, when I went to Universal Studios in 2009 in Los Angeles, I got this adorable teddy bear, and he has a little Jurassic Park hat, and he's holding a velociraptor. Isn't this the cutest thing you've ever seen in your life? But yeah, this animatronic looks extremely realistic, really cool, terrifying. I love dark rides, but I would be terrified to see a massive animatronic chasing me. This is how big its head is in comparison to people. Hate it because of the megalophobia of it. How it works is that it has a different track than the people, and it goes in a circle. Also, he doesn't have feet, so it's kind of goofy, but like with the lights on, it's not as scary. Watch this video and let me know what you're thinking. And would you go on this ride? Honestly, I probably would. I'd just be crying though.
The family of Irina Zarutska, the Ukrainian woman who was fatally stabbed on a train in North Carolina, is speaking out publicly, asking people to stop sharing the footage that has been circulating showing her death. 23-year-old Irina moved from Ukraine to Charlotte, North Carolina. She had been working full-time at a local pizzeria and taking community college classes to improve her English. On August 22nd, she texted her boyfriend that she would be home soon, but she never arrived. And when she didn't come home, loved ones checked her phone location and saw that it was still at a train station. When they arrived at the station, they learned that Irina had been killed on the Blue Line train that she was taking home. DeCarlos Brown Jr. stabbed Irena to death, and there is footage of this from inside the train. But again, her family has asked that it no longer be shared online. Brown was arrested at the state level and charged with first-degree murder, and then he was arrested and charged in federal court with one count of committing an act causing death on a mass transportation system, which is a crime that could land him the death penalty. Now, Irena's family is fighting for change, calling her death the most horrific way to lose a life. In a statement, the family said, quote, "This could have been anyone riding the light rail that night. We are committed to making sure this never happens again." They are calling for a full investigation into, quote, "lapses in security protocols and failures within the public transportation system." They are citing a lack of visible or effective security presence on the Blue Line, failure of oversight in the contract between the Charlotte Area Transit System and Professional Security System, and the absence of adequate safety measures they believe could have prevented the attack. The family said, "We are heartbroken beyond words. Irena came here to find peace and safety, and instead her life was stolen from her in the most horrific way. No family should have to go through this." So they are fighting for change in the wake of her death so her legacy can live on to help others. Rest in peace, Irena.
Why would you even go here? A man from Indonesia was exploring this abandoned hospital when strange things started happening. Ignoring what he saw, he went deeper in and came across what looked like a person without a head, pushing a wheelchair.
Ancok, matamu itu jelas banget, An. Oh, dah, dikira mati aku,
If that wasn't creepy enough, as he approaches a room, he sees this.
Ancok, matamu.
A demonic-looking woman flips her head back to stare at him. Now, this is most likely not real, but I still wouldn't watch this at night.
Yo, what's up? These are characters in movies or shows based off real-life serial killers, part 1. The Ghostface Killer from Scream. This may come as a surprise to you, but around 1990 in the city of Gainesville, Florida, a string of murders began where college students were being brutally and gruesomely murdered by a perpetrator and killer by the name of Danny Rolling, later known as the Gainesville Ripper. Danny Rolling grew up in a very abusive household, and at the age of 1 is when his abuse began. And once his younger brother was born, well, the abuse just got worse. At the age of 11, Danny's mom was committed to a hospital after slitting her wrist, which then in turn led Danny to a life of alcohol and drug abuse, which only worsened his already fragile mental state. After having gone through all these events, he grew up and then went on to be the Gainesville Ripper, where he would move to decapitate, mutilate, and rape many women from the University of Florida. In the end, he was actually being charged for theft, but then pleaded guilty to the 5 murders, and on his deathbed, he sang a 5-verse hymn before being taken to be executed.
Shout out to Sauce, the boss, of course, man. Who's in the building, man?
Paintings on the bottom of swimming pools should be illegal. Part 2. Seriously though, why would anybody draw a freaking Jaws shark on the bottom of a swimming pool? Why would you have this done in your own house? Why would you have this to where when it's completely full of water, because it's drained right now, when it's completely full of water, when you look under the water, you see this giant shark? Why? Why would you do that? Like, are you just a glutton for punishment? Like, I don't understand why anyone would do that. I would never go anywhere near these pools that have freaking things drawn on them. What is wrong with you? Like, this is a public pool. This is a public pool, and you are traumatizing children and adults by doing this. Why? This one's kind of goofy looking, but I still would cry if I saw it underwater. You think this one's cute. It's like dolphins, right? But actually dolphins are kind of evil. Did you know that orca whales are actually just giant dolphins that have different colored skin? Did you know that? Like, orcas are just black and white dolphins. And you know how evil they are. So I don't like this either. And the cherry on top, someone put a giant whale eye mosaic in their pool. Why? Don't even get me started on black bottom pools. Who completely decides to make their entire pool tiled with black so it looks like the abyss? Who? Why?
These two interviews from the documentary were taken years apart. So when she's in the pink and she's like, I loved my mom more than anything, and everyone's like, what is wrong with her? She is so blind. This was taken years ago. And then when she walks into frame in the gray hoodie and all the interviews in the gray hoodie were done, that was the most recent version of Lauren that we have. And I also think the fact that she decided to go to college for criminology is so interesting and very telling about where she now stands with the whole situation. And it's like, why wouldn't they disclose this? Why would they just like make us think that these are the same timeline? Because like this documentary is for entertainment purposes at the end of the day. Yes, it's true crime. Yes,
it's his birthday. Everybody wish him happy birthday.
Oh, this is big right here, y'all. Everybody wish Sauce, the official boss, happy birthday, man.
We're back once
Let's
again.
go. Let's see it in the timeline.
You know, it's a beautiful day. If you feeling down, just get you a bag of that.
I like the wish.
Just light up.
Sauce.
Can't find you, Mr. Hair Ride. Can't greet him with two, only the third eye. Killer Vision, PSER, Red Hospital. Let me on the track. Accidents and opera O's. Conscious, unconscious. Flow riding on my train. Denzel, Chris Pine, unstoppable. Albert Einstein. Imagination is more important than knowledge. Therefore, I'm flying off the tracks. Extraterrestrial blunt, I got it on my lap. When I land Soul Train line, hop up on my dad. They fear what they don't understand. I forgive them cause they don't really know no better. Hope let them walk on water. Dancing in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean with a polo sweater. How bad do you want success? I was